through their guidance, we were able to, use the cost seg study, realize depreciation, take that depreciation as a loss. And then they knew that I was able to carry those losses backwards, restate past tax years, and get refunds for taxes previously paid.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, on this podcasting journey, Yono Weiss. And with me today, we got Roy Koppelmann. What's going on, Roy?
A lot is going on, to be honest with you, as we're kind of coming out of this pandemic, and we're starting to see the end in sight for the eviction moratorium. I think that's obviously a good thing for the listeners of this podcast, no doubt. So I think that's a real good thing for everybody. I mean, it does signal what I think we might recognize as the end of the pandemic, and I feel like we've been kind of coming out of that for a good little bit here. Yeah. So that's good. And so, I'm eager to operate my property in more of a conventional manner, Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that in my apartment business. And then I'm doing some new development work. So we're building townhomes in Charleston. We got about 34 townhomes that we're building in Charleston, and we're building kind of higher end luxury spec homes in Charlotte, and we're bringing on investors for that and able to offer them attractive returns. So excited about that. That's something that's been something that I've wanted to do. I started out as an investor without attracting outside capital. And so It's always been something that I've wanted to do as I've kind of grown. It's like, hey, look, let's find some partnering opportunities. Let's spread some of the benefits around and allow me to grow a business. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's great to hear. I mean, for our listeners who don't know Roy is he's based out of Charlotte, and he's a multifamily investor. But you didn't start a multifamily. I recall, if I'm not mistaken, you had a lot of single families leading up to your multifamily experience.
Yeah. If I can share a little background, would that be all right?
That's awesome. Yeah, please do.
All right. So when I first moved to Charlotte, it was coming out of the 2008 economic downturn, recession. And I had sold some property in Chicago, and I was kind of surveying the landscape and trying to determine how best to invest some capital that I had. And at the time, you could buy like a kind of a basic tract home proximate to uptown Charlotte for approximately a 3-bedroom, 2-bath built late 90s, early 2000s. You could buy that house for $45,000.
Wow.
$45,000. It was a good house, a 3-2 within, 20 minutes of downtown Charlotte. Those were really attractive investments. And, surveying the landscape, I was like, well, what could possibly compare return wise to that? That was my thinking at the time. Little did I know that there were some other things that could compare, and I'll get to that. But so I bought some single family homes in Charlotte. Then I started putting more offers out, and offer after offer after offer. I mean, I'm talking about 50 offers maybe. They weren't getting accepted. So we now know that was institutional capital coming in and clearing the board, buying everything, and there was no outbidding them. And I still had some capital to place, and my real estate agent suggested I look at some duplexes. So I bought a few duplexes, and I'm indebted to this real estate agent to this day, Cheryl. The last name escapes me at the moment, but I'm indebted to her to this day because I still had capital in place after I bought a few duplexes. And she encouraged me to buy a 20-unit apartment community. So it wasn't my idea. It was completely my agent's idea. I went ahead and bought that apartment community. I bought it for $17,500 a door within 5 minutes of uptown Charlotte.
Wow.
So 20-unit apartment complexes boggles the mind to think that you could buy a 20-unit apartment complex within 5 minutes of Charlotte or downtown Charlotte for $350,000, but you could at the time. It needed a ton of work, and it was in a challenged neighborhood. But ultimately, here I thought I was getting a great deal buying a single family house for $45,000, and then I moved into these apartments for $17,500. There's no comparing to that, Sure. So keep learning. Now I'm looking for the next thing that there's no comparing to, like what is it that I don't know? But any event, so that got me on the journey. I started, I had real estate, I had rentals, but I hadn't moved into the apartments yet. And I sold some things and bought some things. And so ultimately bought several more apartment complexes, one of which we renovated to the Stud. That's also within 5 minutes of downtown Charlotte, downtown/uptown Charlotte. And now today, just with the refi and roll and 1031 strategy, you got about 126 units. So that's been good for me and my family. Like I said, I didn't read books. I didn't do anything. No books, no podcasts.
No podcasts.
Oh, no. I mean, it just really wasn't. Obviously, the books were there, but it just didn't. Oddly, didn't occur to me at that time to read them. Now I've read everything, right? Now I've read everything. I've read all the, Rich Dad Poor Dad, which obviously inspires many people. But at the time, I just was winging it. I was totally winging it. It seems so hard to believe now. So the apartments, those are kind of the family assets. Mm-hmm. We're really excited. My partners and I, Tom Miller, Mitchell Hurley, and I are building high-end spec product and bringing on investors to help us grow our business and tackle bigger and bigger projects. So that's the exciting stuff that we're working on today. So I can give you a little background of what we've been.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you have these kind of legacy assets that you're renting out, you refinance them, they're cash flowing, I assume. They've appreciated, right?
When I can collect rent, they're cash flowing. I'm kidding about that. I mean, we're cash flowing for sure, but I will acknowledge that 2020 COVID pandemic was not the best for collections. I'm confident I'm not the only one.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure you had to deal with, tenants not paying. And I don't know, did you have to deal with any evictions or anything like that? Or because of the moratorium, you couldn't?
Yeah, I want to go into too much depth there. There were some cash for keys scenarios where, the tenant was approached, they weren't evicted, they were made an offer, and in a couple of scenarios they accepted. Obviously we were sensitive to the situation that everybody was in, lockdown. The apartments that I have, they're workforce housing, and during a lockdown, my tenant base couldn't work. Work. I would say that they
weren't allowed to.
Yeah, weren't allowed to work, which obviously impacted pretty significantly. I will say though that, they also had the opportunity to get, elevated unemployment and hope money assistance. So I think when it's all said and done, it wasn't a banner year for collections, but with some of the assistance, it offset some of the challenges. So brighter days ahead. I care about the tenants. There's a kind of symbiotic relationship between the owner and the tenant, right? And you want your tenant to be happy in their unit, content in their unit. I care to the extent that I see them as my customers, and I want them to, succeed, and I want to offer them quality housing at an affordable price point. So upside is they're back to work. That's better for them. We're collecting rent. That's better for us. And, brighter days ahead for owner and tenant is how I see it.
100%. No, it's beautiful. And it was really what I wanted to say there is you have these, these assets that are just appreciating, the going up in value. You have them long-term. And there are so many different ways, as you mentioned, to get involved in real estate. Sometimes you may not know the right way, and you keep learning.
Yeah.
You keep learning. But one thing that a lot of people don't know about you is that you love ping pong. Is that right?
Oh, you cue it up. I was going to cue it up. So I don't know if the listeners are aware of your ping pong skills, but I had, I don't know if we call it the pleasure or the displeasure of playing you. And it was like, I don't know, have you ever seen the Bruce Lee, it's like a little Bruce Lee video where he's using one hand to play ping pong. That's pretty much how I recall playing you in ping pong, you know. So if you're if you're a listener and you're a good ping pong player, you got to seek Yona out and challenge him. And the more listeners, the more, I think there's like a better pref that my partners and I will offer if you capture a video. If you capture a video of you beating Yona.
That's awesome. No, that's great.
We had a lot of fun. We visited our friends. You were in town. We visited our friends at IMS, which is now acquired by RealPage, and they offer a great investor management tool. And they had, a la the millennial kind of work environment. They had a ping pong table there, and
that was great.
I got trounced. I regret to inform everybody, but I will say, Yona needs a lot of challengers. So,
well, I'm out of practice. I'm out of practice.
Yeah, no, that was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Good memories. One other memory, which actually, I don't know if you know this. This is something, and I'll share this with our listeners because I think it's just fascinating, and share it with you because I don't know if you know this, but I literally, Dan Hanford, who's also a good friend out there in North Carolina, actually he's in South Carolina, but he basically twisted my arm and forced me to open a Facebook account. I never had Facebook account ever, right?
No kidding.
Yeah, never. Yeah, I never had Facebook. And, he was doing webinars, and he had done his first multifamily investor nation. He's like, we're posting it on Facebook. You got to join, you got to open an account. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I pushed him off for a while, and then I ended up joining. And he, to this day, you ask him, he'll take credit for the fact that I'm on Facebook. But literally a couple of weeks after I joined Facebook,
best marketing guy in the world.
Right, exactly. And I was very successful in using LinkedIn, and that's been my kind of go-to for many years. But whatever, open Facebook. Anyways, long story short, a couple of weeks after opening the Facebook account, I would check in, every couple of days or whatever, just to see what's going on. Get invited to like these different groups and things like that. All the Facebook groups, they're great. Subsequently have our own Facebook group and, many things like that. But a couple of weeks after that is where I was introduced to Roy Koppelmann. And so how did that happen? Roy Koppelmann put on a post in some Facebook group, who do you go to for cost segregation? And a couple of my clients, a couple of people, Jason Urusi, I think, and some other people had tagged my name over there. And I was like, oh, look at this. Facebook works.
Yeah, that's funny. It definitely does work. And I will tell you, this is an interesting aside. So you guys have done, I think, a couple of cost seg reports for me. I might be selling a couple of assets that have matured this coming fall, late summer, early fall. So there might be an upcoming sale. And I plan to 1031. So I've kind of 1031 and cost seg in the past. But in any event, I will be cost segging again. And I tell you, the experience, for what it's worth, I mean, without shamelessly plugging you on your show, but I'll do it because the experience was tremendous. And interestingly, it was extremely impactful. I work with Brandon Hall CPA. I hope you won't mind me sharing, but
sure,
I think they're absolutely terrific for the real estate, for my real estate and tax preparation. And through their guidance, we were able to, use the cost seg study, realize depreciation, take that depreciation as a loss, and then they knew that I was able to carry those losses backwards, restate past tax years, and get refunds for taxes previously paid. I feel a little uncomfortable going into a lot of detail on my taxes, but I'll say that in a year in which it wasn't particularly great on the revenue side for apartments, having done the cost seg study, taking the bonus depreciation, carrying it back per the advice of Brandon Hall and Company, and then getting refunds, which the whole point was to stimulate the economy.
Right.
It was to stimulate the economy, and that's what the funds were used for.
That's what it did. Absolutely.
It worked as designed, but it was very, very helpful to have done that cost seg study with you and Madison Speck, and I just had a great experience.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. I think the stimulus, the bill that they passed in order to allow that carry back, I saw a lot of people taking advantage of that because
Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and not to interrupt, but if the goal is to stimulate the economy, there's a couple of ways that you can do that, and one of which is to put money in the hands of people who are going to deploy it, right? That money just went into unit renovations. So it worked as completely as intended. I spent probably 90% at Home Depot buying my flooring. So, just being very realistic about it. So great to use the cost seg study. It's been very impactful. I think, interestingly, kind of the way things are designed today, you could take, obviously the net effect, as everybody's aware, is that there's a lot more front-loaded depreciation. So long as bonus depreciation is available, you can possibly offset gains. So I don't know if everybody is really aware of that, but in lieu of a 1031 strategy, and we understand that the 1031 is being reconsidered. So in lieu of the 1031 strategy, if you sell, do your cost seg study, take the bonus depreciation and the losses, that can offset the capital gain from the sale of an asset. Probably a lot of people know that, but there's also probably some listeners like myself who weren't aware of that and weren't aware of the ability to use it that way. So I think if you're selling an asset, which is a kind of an interesting way to think about it, if you're selling an asset, but if you're selling an asset, you might be thinking about how can I use this cost seg study effectively to offset gains on the asset that I'm going to acquire. So I think it's very interesting, and I encourage folks to talk to their CPA about how to leverage those strategies. But very impactful. I'm very grateful for it.
No, they're huge strategies. And I think what you brought up is yes, speak to your CPA. And if you don't have a CPA that is, and you are a real estate investor, you don't have a CPA that is real estate savvy, you're going to make sure you get one, because something like this saved, you probably hundreds of thousands of dollars.
It did. Definitely. I will say that one of the things, just on the topic of using the right CPA, for the longest time, I said this talking to some other folks that I'm friendly with, and frankly, I was on another podcast, and I was sharing that I previously thought I had a good CPA, and then I asked them about cost segregation approach versus straight line depreciation, and they got confused. They didn't really know, and that was a big sign that I wasn't working with the right person. So if you're a listener of the podcast, you think you got somebody good, you want to make sure that you really do, in fact, have somebody that's good, especially somebody who has a heavy focus and emphasis on real estate.
Yeah, 100%.
Total game changer.
Absolutely. And I come across this every day, literally. I'm speaking to people every single day, and this topic comes up a lot. People are like, well, I have this CPA, he's been my family accountant for many years, or my uncle, or whatever. But in the end of the day, you want to make sure that you're paying legally as little possible taxes as possible. And the right CPA who understands the tax code, understands the benefits of real estate, are going to find and know about all of those strategies which you can utilize.
Yeah, I'm very persuaded by a book with I think it's a pretty provocative title, Tax Free Wealth, because I think it kind of, it's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's It's from the same publishing group, but the title is intended to attract the attention of a book buyer. That said, I'm persuaded by the argument in that book that ultimately these incentives align with government objectives. They align with government objectives. So if you're taking advantage of the incentive that's there, it's because you're doing something that the government, in fact, wants you to do, because they want investment in real estate, because they see that historically, anyway, at the time that the laws were put into place, they wanted that investment. Yeah, the goals of the government change over time, and if they do, so be it. But at the time that the tax provisions that enabled this were put into place, they wanted people to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have created the incentive. And I'm persuaded by that argument. So I feel borderline patriotic. Might be full on patriotic to do what the government wants you to do.
Exactly.
It's authorized you to do.
Yeah, it's funny because some people will look at that, and I think it has a lot to do with, like you said, maybe the change of government ideals, if you will, or lack thereof.
They shift over time, right? They shift over time. Sometimes they go this way, sometimes they go that way.
But yeah, it's funny to see how rapidly things change and how maybe different values change in terms of what the government wants for people.
Yeah, well, it is fascinating because it does feel like you can get whipsawed around a little bit, right? That one day you're doing this sort of thing, and the next day you're like, all right, a strategy that I've used in the past needs modification. And I think it remains to be seen what ultimately what kind of changes. Obviously, there's some change desired, and there's some change on the horizon. That's why I think it's so important, absolutely vital to be working with the right real estate CPA.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely vital. You got to have the right guy who knows how to leverage the rules that are in place to the benefit, which is exactly what everybody would do, which is exactly what every company in America does. Every company in America hires a CPA to review the tax, to assess how to leverage the tax law in the favor of that business entity. And I think it's reasonable and rational that individuals who own property would do the same.
Yeah, for sure. It just makes sense, right? I mean, you want to make sure you're getting the most for your money. And, we did actually have Brandon Hall on the podcast here, Weiss Advice, way back when. I'm trying to pull up over here which episode that was, but that's kind of scrolling over here on the side.
Bring him back. I mean, it'd be an interesting time to bring him back.
No, it would be, actually. He's got so much knowledge. I love what he has to say, and really smart guy. I enjoy his Facebook group. We get a ton of value out of what's going on there.
That's who I use. So, it's not hard to figure out who the good people are and just use them.
That's right.
That's my strategy. Figure out who the good people are and use the good people.
That's right. Yeah. And, the good thing is that a lot of us are interconnected. So it's easy to find.
Exactly. Yeah. You can take that Madison Spec cost seg study, plug it right into all CPA.
Exactly. Yeah, they know exactly what to do. So you go back, check that out, episode 83. I just pulled it over here. Anyways, Brandon Hall. Roy, this has been a blast. Time flies. I want to transition now to what we call the final four, which could take who knows how long. But your first question, Roy, is going to be, what is the worst job that you ever had?
I'll tell you, this job was not for me. It was not for me. It lasted 30 minutes. 30 minutes, literally 30 minutes. I was a busboy at a country club. I didn't come from a country club upbringing, and I poured this guy's water. I kid you not. I poured this guy's water, and he looked at me like I had done it wrong. I mean, didn't get on him or anything. I just, he looked at me like I did it wrong. And, I poured water my whole life. I think I know how to do it. But I was just like, this job's not going to be for me. It's not going to work. I turned in my bow tie and my apron. I think it was like a tux shirt or something. It was kind of ridiculous. So that job didn't work. I mean, I had some other gems. That's for sure. selling newspaper subscriptions and whatnot. But most other jobs lasted longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's true. that's definitely one that goes down as not a good one. That's incredible.
Water, come on.
The technique,
15, I knew how to do it. Come on. Yeah. So
it's hard to know what people
I don't really work for anybody anymore. I work for myself, so I just only have to satisfy myself and my family. But that was a doozy of a job. Didn't work out.
Well, there you go. I'm glad you grew out of it and figured out what you wanted to do. The second question is going to be, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, I actually just brought this book up, and I've read a lot of different real estate books. It would be kind of odd not to mention things like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tax-Free Wealth. Tax-Free Wealth really kind of drove home a point about, the government would not put certain incentives in the tax code if they didn't want you to take advantage of it. For example, like natural gas and oil exploration, they need people to do those kinds of things. They need people to create affordable housing opportunities. So there's some incentives around doing it. Those two books were very impactful. But right now, Making It in Real Estate, Starting Out as a Developer by John McNellis. This book is really tremendous. I'm moving away from the deep value add. I'm not moving away. I'm going to continue to do the apartments, but I also want something that's a little more active. The sort of passiveness about value add. You put the program in place. You put the process in place, and then you kind of step back from it and then monitor it. And I've been successful with that. I'm going to move into, individually 150 unit asset, 150 to 200 unit asset. That's the next move for me. But I want to be a little bit more active than I am today. And so that's why my partners and that's why I wanted to form this partnership with my buddies and start these new development. And this book's been very impactful. So Making It in Real Estate, Starting Out as a Developer, John McNellis.
There you go. Okay. We'll definitely put that on the reading list. I'm sure it opens eyes to things, possibilities that you never knew existed. So
Absolutely. So recent one, but a real good one.
Yeah. But I mean, it's all about seeing things from a different perspective. I mean, that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely.
So the third question for you is going to be, what is a skill or talent that you would like to learn? This
is funny because I don't have to think for 1 second. I do not have to think for 1 second about this. I cannot ride a wheelie on a bicycle, but I want to do this so bad. I've tried. I've actually flipped over completely trying to do this. I have had dreams about riding a wheelie on a bicycle. So that is, might seem funny in the context. There's probably plenty of other things that are kind of more legitimate and business oriented, but for sure riding a wheelie.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Can you ride a wheelie?
You know what? Probably not, to be honest. I don't. I think I could.
Playing ping pong.
Then
I'd be really jealous. I mean, I'm jealous of the ping pong skills. But if you could also do it while riding a wheelie, I mean,
you got me there.
I just don't think I could bear that jealousy.
You got me there. That's for sure. But yeah, we'll definitely. We'll try to make sure we can figure out how to do a wheelie so I can do them better than you. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
I'm joking.
I don't want to see it. Can I get a video? Video or it doesn't count.
Yeah. So the fourth and final question is going to be, what does success mean to you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I knew that you'd be asking that question, and I've been meditating on it. I think success is, having a level of independence in your life, having a level of independence in your life. That's important to me, making sure that your family is taken care of. Your family's taken care of. You got a level of independence and that you can pick what you work on. Those are kind of probably the top 3 bullets. There's probably plenty of other stuff, but a level of independence, having your family taken care of and working on the things that you care about and that inspire you and get you excited when you get up in the morning. And fortunately, I'm there. There's always room for growth. There's always new opportunity, always a new place you can take something. Mm-hmm. But in terms of having those 3 bullets, I'm kind of at that place in my life, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's something, to be very grateful for. And I think once you have that, and especially the fact that you can establish, and what that is. So you have what you've, striving to and continuing to grow within that. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah. So good place. Always room for further growth. You just don't want to sit back on your laurels, do nothing. It's just not exciting. It's hard to get fired up about that. Got to be productive. Got to be doing things.
That's good.
But getting to some place of independence is exciting.
Sure. And, for everyone, the question is different. And, for some people, it might be just going and spending the rest of their life traveling around the world, that's what success means to them. But the ultimate goal is to know what's meaningful to you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I know what drives you. Well, thank you, Roy. It's been a pleasure catching up and great speaking with you today. I appreciate you coming on and making the time for us.
Oh, my pleasure. I just hope that a result of this being on the podcast is that you just get an endless host of challengers for ping pong. That's my wish. That's my wish, and much success in your life. But a ton of ping pong challengers. It was a pleasure. A lot of fun, and thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. And to all our listeners, thanks again for joining us. And remember, until next time, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn, send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.